This time on Luke's Mopar Garage, I test out 4 different ignition systems for a classic Mopar. I test out the very first ignition systems, the point distributors. I test out the later model electronic ignition setups. I try out a weird little in-between distributor setup between an electronic and a points, see how that works out. Then I'll try the MSD setup, the newest and best system on the market. I just wire them all up on the bench and see what they do. But anyway, let's get right into the video. First, it'd be wise to kind of test out all the various components that we have here. Especially this battery here. I really don't know if it's any good. None of the other things will work, of course, without a good strong battery. Negative and positive. Well, it looks like it got around 12 volts there. What, 1270? Yeah, you can do that. That's one way to test if your battery is even within a ballpark of working. But the other thing you can do is get this fancy load tester here, smack it on there and see what happens. Once you connect your negative and positive, you get this load tester, you hit it. It's kind of in the yellow a little bit, kind of borderline green. Yeah, it's a workable battery. And the first type of ignition system we got here is this little points distributor here. See, little points open up whenever it hits a certain part on that tower. Makes and breaks. Really don't know how to multimeter one of these things. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this little lead, put it in this wire that comes out of this distributor, and then put the other one on the body of the distributor, on the ground, you know. And now with this little icon here, this little beep icon, I can't really think of the name currently on the spot. But you put it on top of a tower on the top, it says, oh well, it broke it. When you take it off, it beeps. It's making continuity. Take it off, take it on. That just goes to show I guess it's working. So I guess we'll go with it. We'll try it out, see if it actually works as it should. Now we got our little ballast resistor here. They have a single and then they have a double. And to test these out, you put it on ohm. Put one into one end, one in the other. I got 1.7. There's a particular number that it has that it's happy at. And I think that number is 1.2 or something. This one seems to be stuck at 1.7. And on a double unit here, one side should be 1.2 and the other side should be 5. That's what they recommend on the internet, at least. This side is 2 and this side is 6. So really don't know what to think. They work on the vehicles, but they might not be perfect, of course. I don't have any new stuff here. Then of course we got this coil here, and it worked as it should, so I'm going to use it to test it. I think you just put it on ohm and you put positive to positive, negative to negative. And you should have 0.4 ohms to 0.2. This one's like 2.4. Let me try out a crusty unit like this, see what it says. It says 2.4 as well. Well, this might be a good working coil, even though it looks like garbage. These two are within the margins. And this one obviously works on that demon, so we'll just go with it. I don't think it has to be exactly on 2. It could be 2.3, I guess. Yeah, that just scared the crap out of me. It's all peace and quiet until the shop's air compressor comes on. So I'm not any professional, but I think this is how it goes. I have a positive cable hooked up, little wire here. I'm assuming that goes to the positive side of the coil. And of course your distributor here goes on the negative side of the coil. And to complete the circuit, I'd have to ground the distributor on this battery here. Oh man, this is sketchy, man. That has to return to ground. That has to complete the circuit. Let me see. Okay, I'll jam it into this spark plug here. Oh, this is freaking sketchy. Man, I don't want to be touching this thing, man. I don't really know what's going to happen. Okay, check it out. Don't really know what I'm doing. But here I have my battery hooked up. Little positive. have it running down here, have it running to the positive side of the coil. And at the negative side, I have my distributor. Oh, what is it? Oh, yeah. And that goes to the distributor, of course. My distributor is grounded by the battery. And in order for the spark plug to spark, I have to run my ignition coil to the spark plug and then ground the spark plug onto the negative side as well. So the distributor and the spark plug are grounded on the block. So I'm kind of simulating that with this setup. So if I set it up right, of course, should see a little spark in between that gap whenever I spin this. Just like that. Okay, we're all ready to go. Hook that up. There it is. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I'll make it easier for you. Look at that. As I turn the distributor, it creates our little spark there. So that's freaking neat. Now I'm going to turn off the lights to let you guys see a better look at this. Holy crap, is it dark in here, man. Hook up my wire to my coil here. Oh, look at that arc. Ooh, this has seizure mode. Got it zoomed in a little bit. Yep, sparking. All of this is bench tested and working. And I showed you guys a ballast resistor a few minutes ago. And I could hook that up in between this wire here. And all it does is reduce the voltage down to somewhere around, 9, 10, maybe 8. And it bypasses when you're cranking on your key. So it'll be 12 volts to your ignition system, like what I was doing here. Full 12 volts. But when you're not cranking, when it's in the run position, it's the reduced voltage, whatever it reduces it down to, a little less than 12 to keep your coil from overheating. Old Mopar coils have a tolerance, They can only tolerate about 8, 9 volts, And the ballast resistor keeps these coils running a long time. The solution to this would get like a Chevy or a Ford coil that can accept 12 volts constantly and just run without a ballast resistor. Make it a whole lot more simple, like this. And for what I'm doing here, it's just short term. It's not going to blow this coil up if I give it 12 volts all the time. Plus, this is a select professional choice ignition coil. So it might be already set up for 12 volt compatibility. I'm just not sure. But yeah, all this points ignition stuff works as it should. That's how points work. Super duper simple. Now we're going to move over to electronic ignition. Oh my gosh, that one does not turn well. It's a piece of junk. Let's see here. This one turns, but looks like it came out of a barn. Well, we'll do a little test on it to see if it's capable of working with power. And of course, I have no idea what the ohm resistance on one of these is, but I do know you can jam these two leads. And I'm no expert here, this is just what I've seen before, but an electronic ignition distributor that functions has some sort of resistance, some sort of reading to it, It's like there's our little reading there, and as I turn it, you see how that little bar there kind of moves around? Just shows that something's happening when I turn it. When I leave it still, it's still, but when I turn it, something happens. And you hear, every once in a while you hear a little beep in there, like it's catching. And I think that must mean this thing might be able to work. We'll just have to see here in a second. It just shows that it has life. It has something going on. And of course, you can't talk about electronic ignition stuff without talking about this bad boy right here. This will pull your hair out sometimes. This one looks brand new, right? But I'm pretty sure this one's bad. We tested it out. I'm sure we tested this one out. It's a reason why it's in a pile. Yeah, some of these work straight out of the box for a little bit, but then break they just short out or something, and they're just really weak. It's not a good design. Although I really, really love electronic ignition. It gives you a nice hot spark, a reliable spark, you know, computerized or whatever. You know, this is an ECU, a electronic control unit. That's its official name. I did not know that. But over here we got a spread of different junk. Like, look at this thing. Surprisingly, I think this one works. It worked on the Blue Demon, but it worked sporadically. Oh, no, wait, that was a distributor. The distributor was physically chipped. I don't think this was even the problem, believe it or not. This might actually work. We'll try that first. Plug that in there. Electronic ignition has this special little connector here. We plug that into our little harness right here. Goes in like so. Okay, electronic ignition. Let me give you the rundown of this mess that I have here. I'm going to start with our positive side. I got a red wire running to the positive side of the coil, 12 volts. Of course, you could have your little ballast resistor in there and make that work too, but I'll just have 12 volts. Then I have this blue wire that goes to the ECM. It'll have a little blue wire on here that goes all the way back over there. Out of the ECM, I have these two little wires going to my distributor. It's hard to mess up the polarity of these things, but we've done it before. Splicing wires and all. Those two come out of the distributor and go to the bulkhead right here. And then out of the bulkhead, we got a little black and yellow tracer wire here that goes to the negative side of the coil, and that completes the circuit. And then, of course, I got my little coil wire going over here to the spark plug just sitting there. We will be viewing that. And out of this, sometimes it has a green wire, and I have no clue what that is, and I've never hooked it up to anything. So it just kind of dangles there. Hooked all up to this crusty little box here. The weird goopy one with all the filling gooped out of it. An old factory unit. I'm sure those numbers mean something, but I'm not sure. Time to fire it up and see if it all works like it should. Over here we're at a different angle, but it'll work just the same. Can't see the distributor, but it's right here. I'll be moving it. Got my negative wire. Coil right here, zap, zap. Hook that up like so. Kind of dangling there. And I'll turn the distributor. No, you can't really see it from the camera. I'll zoom in here. But as I turn the distributor, I get little zaps. Very sporadic, but snaps. Turn it fast. Still get little lightning bolts in there. Let me try a different box to see if we can't lighten this thing up a little bit. Try this unit right here, see what it does. I want to make sure that everything's scratched and able to ground. Because these little units here, they rely so much on body grounds, like you mount it on your firewall or on your fender wells or something. And if it's not grounded properly, that could be your whole problem as well. We've had really, really rusty cars that was all their problem was. We just ran a wire directly from negative side all the way to here, and it worked perfectly fine. Okay, got this different box hooked up. Not really sure what it was off of. Found it in a bucket. Gonna hook up our little ground here. Ground that out. Hook up negative side. Good to see sparks. Get on there. I'm gonna turn that distributor there. And we have spark. Again, I'll turn off the lights here to show a little bit more action. Get on there. Okay. Now, let's try this out. Get this thing focused. take it away. Little bitty sparks. But yep, this is electronic ignition in a nutshell right here. Just the basic necessities to make it work. You can test boxes out really easily doing hodgepodge crap like this. I have quite a few boxes over here that I could be testing. And they probably work. At least these factory units, I'm sure they work. Oh, yeah, no. I'll test out this chrome one. I gave it a bad rap a minute ago. Let's see what it does. Got the nice chrome box hooked up. Connect. Power. Stay. Let's see what it can do. Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, you turn the distributor. Crappy pieces of junk. These pieces of junk over here, they spark, you know. But this brand new Chinese chrome box does absolutely nothing. It shows quality nowadays. Chinese parts. But yeah, I knew there was a problem with this one. Should probably throw it in the garbage before we mistake it for a good working box. But yep, that's electronic ignition. Now before we get to this complicated MSD stuff, there is one more option that is available for a car owner. Let's say you have a points distributor here and you're like, well, I really want an electronic ignition system, but I do not want to retrofit it over. So, you know, got to get the little bulkhead, got to get all the wires hooked up, and maybe it's too expensive or something, right? So you're like, well, this is what I got. I have a points distributor, but I want an electronic distributor. What do? The solution is simple. Get yourself a PerTronix system. This bad boy right here will bridge the gap between points and electronic ignition for a much cheaper price. At least it was back in the day. I have no clue how much these things are nowadays. Probably really expensive. Probably not even worth it. But here's the breakdown of a PerTronix system. First, you gut out this little box here. Don't really know the name at the moment. Then you gut out your points here. Looks like that's what this guy did. Looks like you take all that crap out of there and you bolt in this little plate here. Put on this little pickup coil, 2 wires. I'm assuming that's negative side and positive side of your coil. And then you take your factory little rotor here and you put it inside of this. It's keyed right there, big and little. And on your rotor here, you have a little notch and a big notch, and you just kind of pop them together. I'm not sure if this is a factory rotor. It might be a special one that the PerTronix comes with. And it gives you this little circle. It's a piece of tape. And you see those little notches in there? Those are little pickups, you know? Something like a electronic ignition distributor would have. It has little spikes that when it hits the pickup coil, it sends signal. But instead, that pickup coil senses those little notches there. So this all goes together like so. And now you have electronic ignition in a points ignition distributor. Let's see if we can't get this thing to do stuff. Got red lead in the red wire, black lead in the black wire. Got on ohm. Man, I turn it and like nothing happens. Turn it to this one. Nothing really happens. So you could probably see that this PerTronix thing runs off of magic by this point. Or it's broken, we'll have to check that out. Not really sure yet. I have my positive hooked up to the positive side of my coil. I have my little red lead leading to the PerTronix box over here. Positive side, negative side. On the negative side of the PerTronix box, I have the distributor grounded here. All the way to the ground, just like a points ignition would. And I got my spark plug here on ground, just like the others, onto my coil. And I can spin it. Everything's hooked up. And no zappage. So either I do not know how this thing works, or it's broken. I guess let me know in the comments what it could be. Never dealt with something like this. Moving on. Next up we have this crazy concoction of a bunch of modern technology. Yeah, I'm gonna have to be referencing a diagram to hook up this bad boy. Okay, let's take a look at this cobbled together mess that I have here. First of all, out of this thing, there's 2 big old wires. There's a big old black wire and a big old red wire. Big old red wire goes to the positive side of the battery. Big old black wire goes to the negative side of the battery. So that's simple. Out of it as well, we have two wires. We have a black and an orange. Orange goes to the positive side of the coil. Black goes to the other side of the coil, the negative. Got that sketchily hooked up there. They have a little bitty red wire coming out of the box that connects also to the positive side of the coil. So I got that wrapped around there. And we have a white and a gray. Gray is tack output. It's there ain't no tack here, so I don't need to use that. And I got white capped off. That's what the diagram says. Don't really know. Maybe it's, yeah, I really don't know what that's all about. And then we have this little sensor wire here that, okay, we got our distributor here. It has two wires coming out of it. And in the beginning, it used to have a connector like this. But we adapted that to a factory electronic ignition plug-in, like one you would see here. Yeah, right here. Same as that. And we figured out the orientation whenever we had it running in a car. But currently, I do not know if those need to be flipped or not. So I'll try it one way, flip the polarity, and then try it again. Cotter keys right there. We'll see if they work as wires. So hopefully this doesn't blow up or anything. I'm not really sure. I'll show the diagram on the screen here. But it said that this little red wire goes to it goes to original coil, positive coil terminal, you know, wire. But that means something in there with the ignition, the key, the ignition switch. And on the bench, I don't have anything like that. So this just needs to be connected to 12 volts constantly. So I'll just connect this little red wire along with this big red wire to the positive side of the battery. With that hooked up, we have power here. Makes a really weird noise. Listen to this. When we turn our distributor here, I guess this little thing works. Good spark. And it shows our little light doing that too. Dude, you listen to that? That's a weird sound. That's a physically stronger spark than any of the other items that I've tested today. Oh yeah. Guess I must have got lucky with that polarity there. Didn't have to switch them. But yeah, I'm impressed, really. Out here on the bench, that spark sounds hot. It's kind of a cool sound. Here, let me turn off the lights. Yeah, that right there is impressive. I like that. Well, don't have a lot to say about this. I'm impressed. All working the way it should. That's a cool little system there. If these systems weren't so expensive, I might put one in my personal car. Oh man, the other cool thing about it is you put freaking... Oh no, what are those? Like a rev limiter or something? You can adjust your... Yeah, I don't really know what that is. That might just be a rev limiter. Yeah, no, okay. The little plastic cover just affirms that. Yeah, that's freaking neat. That'd be cool. I hear they're really reliable, too. Well, I know they're meant for racing, and I don't know about a street application, but... Well, if it gives spark that looks like that, I mean, that's impressive. That might be worth it. So, in conclusion, if you want a simple ignition system, one that's been working for a long, long time, since probably the beginning of automobiles, go with the points ignition. Very simple. You gotta clean your points every once in a while, you know, set your gap. General little maintenance, but if you want to keep it simple, then just go with the points. You want something a little bit more reliable, something that gives you a little hotter spark than that points ignition. Although that can be debated, I know. But something that's more computerized, you know, a little bit later model. Go with the electronic ignition system. Something that I trust. I have in all my cars because it's just simple, really. I mean, nothing's more simple than a points, but the kits are straightforward, the simple wire diagram, and you get reliability, good startup. PerTronix Ignition, they can run cold, you know. They can run a colder spark. Depends on what box you got for these, but they can run a little hotter, a little bit more reliable spark. So if you want a little bit more reliability, you go with a electronic ignition setup. I don't really know what to say about this PerTronix one. I'm kind of disappointed. It might be broken. I hooked it up just like a Points would, but yeah, it's probably a piece of junk. If you're a millionaire, you can put one of these in your car. They're probably worth it to have the hottest, most reliable spark out there. I mean, these things are kind of foolproof, and they're not as hard as I thought they were to hook up. If you had a lot of money to burn on an ignition system because you're burnt out with all of these, buy yourself an MSD. Do you have to buy a special distributor to go with your special box? Or could you just hook this up to a standard one like this? Kind of like what jam the connectors, but yeah, I'm not completely sure about that, really. But anyway, it's the expensive option. But as you heard in that video, the spark made a different sound, much hotter. Probably good for a racing application. Might burn your spark plugs up after a while in the street. Of course, I'm not sure about that. But all around, they all work except for that PerTronix one. I don't like that. People have their different preferences. I usually prefer the electronic ignition. I'm not a lot of maintenance to do on them either. You don't have to clean points, gap them, or check any of that out. You basically just play swap box every month and get yourself a new box that'll break eventually. I don't like that aspect about it, but yeah, that's my favorite of all the options here. But even though I prefer this, that's probably more superior. I mean, you can't beat it. It's expensive. Okay, so it's kind of eating me up inside. It would suck if you had to buy this super expensive box, then you had to drop more money to buy the super expensive distributor. So I'm going to see if you can hook up a Chrysler OEM distributor here to an MSD box. Got this all set up here. Got it set up the same way it was before, but instead I jammed these pieces of metal into a factory OEM horrible looking distributor here. But that's what I was showing you earlier. It worked with standard equipment. But if you hook it up to this MSD thing and you spin it, it works just about the same. You speed it up. Yeah, so that's awesome. I did not know that. Yeah, so you don't even have to buy an expensive MSD distributor. I'm sure it's preferred, like it's meant for it. Probably get the best results. But if you had a good enough electronic ignition distributor, just wanted the box, it's doable. Well, that's nice to know. Well, that concludes the video. If you like this video and you want to see more classic Mopar content, feel free to like and subscribe.